Mr. Wu read a letter that on July 6 at midnight, the night pearl which does not belong to him will be taken away from him. Mr. Wu owns the world and the sea. He is a master on his left and a great one on his right, and he knows that they are going to steal it from him. The helpers told Mr. Wu not to worry, that they knew how to stop him and how to cause trouble. Mr. Wu said that if he gave the pearl to the Sea Eagle King in the South Sea, he could make him prime minister and his aides generals. A small boat came to the ship. On the boat were 3 beautiful girls who called Chu Liuxing. Chu Liuxing ran through the air to Mr. Wu's ship. The commander-in-chief ordered Chu Liuxing to be captured. The masters began to fight with magic and martial arts. In the fight, Chu Liuxing took possession of the pearl as he had written in his letter. Chu Liuxing returned to his boat and sailed away. Mr. Wu assured his assistants that Chu Liuxing could not distinguish the real pearl from the fake, as the real one was hidden. When Mr. Wu took out the chest in which he kept the real pearl, there was a leaf and a flower in the chest, but no pearl. The letter said that Chu Liuxing had taken the pearl and left his daughter-in-law behind. When Mr. Wu ran into the cabin, he saw his wife tied up, and his assistants rushed to untie her. Mr. Wu shouted that he would kill Chu Liuxing. Mr. Wu was worried that the pearl he had bought in Persia for 1,000,000 won had been stolen. A servant ran in and told him that the pearl had been returned. Mr. Wu ran out into the yard and saw the pearl and the statue that had been stolen. There was a letter next to the pearl. The letter said that the white jade beauty was a reward, and the kidnapper thanked His Majesty on behalf of the victim. Chu Liuxing sat on the roof of the house and admired the stone he had stolen last. Chu Liuxing was a man who helped you get back what was yours. For others, he was invincible. People who liked him called him a robber. People who hated him called him a thief. The man has no sense of smell, but he still always left a tulip at the scene of a crime. Some people called him a thief who shocked the world for decades. Kamasui Court is a martial art that consists only of women. Female students are forbidden to associate with men. They rule the world with the help of the sky and water. If they lose water, they will not be forgiven. The girl started to read. The water comes out from the side of the shelter. Mu Kanyu became the head of Shenshun's court, Medusa Jai. The girl finished reading, the gong was struck, and the servants carried the girl who was to be crowned. An older woman came up to the girl who was reading and said that she hoped that Kanyu was the girl they needed and that everything would be fine. The girl said that with the woman's protection they would succeed. The woman sadly replied that she could not accompany her forever. The girl said that everyone knows about the transmission of divine water. They need to be careful. The townspeople came out to see the new head of the court. They talked among themselves that the ruler of the court changes every 20 years. The new ruler was about to run away in her carriage, but instead she left her assistant behind, whom she had painted and dressed so that the girl looked like her mistress. Hianyu left her assistant alone. A pseudo-ruler stood in front of the people. The real Medusa Inji ran out of the crowd with her assistant and asked the assistant if she could tell who was standing in front of the people. The assistant replied that she could not see the face of the girl who would become the ruler today. Kanyu went to a tavern where a poor man noticed her. He asked for money, but when he saw the wallet on her clothes, he wanted to steal it. The girl had used martial arts to punish the man, and a young man, Chu Liuxing, helped her escape from the tavern, who also helped her fight. Women warriors appeared in the tavern and wanted to take Kanyu to the temple. The young ladies who saw the fight in the tavern were kidnapped by a woman wearing a strange hat. When the girls regained consciousness, they saw that they were in a house, and in front of them, a woman in a strange hat dropped a beetle under the man's skin to neutralize the poison. The woman said she could steal the divine water of the Shenshun temple. Kanyu and Lucan ran to the river. The boy asked the girl's name, but she was silent. He offered her a drink, but they lost the wine during the battle. The couple was caught up by the female soldiers from whom they were running away from the tavern. The girl gestured for them to hide and for them to be given wine. The assistant fulfilled her mistress's request. Kanyu served the wine, and the man began to drink it. The girl's gaze was riveted, and she began to look at her companion with interest. Kanyu gestured to her assistant that they still needed wine. The girls were forced to look for wine. The couple drank many bottles of wine and sat by the fire. San drank the last flask of wine and said out loud that her sister should buy more wine. Her husband did not understand who she was addressing. The guy said that wine was a good thing. It made you forget about sadness. Kanyu asked him if he had anything to be sad about. He told her honestly that her wallet had been stolen by his teacher. He had been teaching him since he was a child. Kanyu called him a thief. This angered Chu Liuxing. He did not consider himself a thief. The girl was surprised that he repeated several times that he was not a thief but Chu Liuxing. Kanyu remembered her teacher's words that she shouldn't get hung up and that although you can't do whatever you want in the world of martial arts, no one can make you do what you don't want to do. Chu Liuxing stood up and shouted that he was not a thief. He wanted to become a great thief. Kanyu asked, Is there a difference? The answer was that no, if a great thief wants to steal, he must first warn the master. Can you assume that there are great thieves in the martial arts world, and if you steal what you steal, you will become a hero? A great thief sounds good, so Can Yu suggested that Chu Liuxing call himself a great thief. If you steal from the poor, I will steal from you. If you oppress people, I will steal your soul. With these words, Can Yu hit Chu Lan in the shoulder and he fell down by the fire. Can Yu sat down in front of him and told him that she wanted him to become a thief because he was good at stealing. After all, Liuxing had stolen the most difficult thing to steal. Liuxing fell asleep from drinking the wine. Can Yu was glad that she was able to drink it. The women from her temple came up to her, and the girls were laughing. Can Yu threatened that if anyone spoke, she would cut out their tongue. Can Yu left Chu Lucin a white tulip and left. The boy immediately opened his eyes and rejoiced, calling himself a heart thief. Can Yu returned to the temple. She changed her clothes and came to the teacher. She offered the teacher some soup she had made. The teacher told her why she had given the power to her. For her, the girl was not like the others. Sang Yu asked that she also receive the divine water. The teacher wondered why the girl had changed her mind because a few days earlier she had not wanted to become the mistress of the temple. Can Yu said that she really wanted to revive Shen Shun, but without the divine water, she would not be able to convince people. The teacher asked about San Yu's future plans, and the woman felt sick, looked at her successor, and saw not San Yu but an old woman who said that she wanted to kill her. A battle broke out between the women. The one who pretended to beat Sang Yu was the Japanese ninjutsu Lin-Er. Lin-Er used magic to tie up the teacher and took over her account. The real Sang Yu came into the room. The girl approached the teacher and took the soup from her hands, with which Lin-Er had previously bound the teacher's powers. San Yu asked why the teacher was dressed like her. She replied that she wanted to pass her water. The girl asked why she was giving her soup today. Can Yu began to look around the room quietly and saw the teacher's motionless body behind the curtain. Lin-Er was forcing the soup into the girl. Sang Yu saw the real face of the person who was pretending to be the teacher. The girl hit her. The noise was heard by the soldier standing outside. Sang Yu's assistant wanted to go to help, but she was stopped by the teacher's assistant. Chu Liuxing made his way to the house where Sang Yu was staying. He opened the door and witnessed Lin-Er demanding water from the teacher and Sang Yu. It turned out that Lin-Er was also a student of this temple. Lin-Er needed water to save her wounded husband. The teacher promised to help her. The teacher noticed Chu Liuxing standing behind the column. She nodded to him and he began to fight with Lin-Er. The teacher took her strength with the water of Tangyi and wounded Lin-Er. Lin-Er realized that the water was the teacher's inner power and she demanded that she give her power to her. A battle began between the women. During the battle, Lin-Er managed to take possession of the water. She aimed to kill Can Yu, but the teacher covered the girl with herself. The teacher died in the arms of her successor, and her last words were to ask Chu Liuxing to take care of Can Yu. The temple servants ran into the room. The girls saw the dead teacher in the arms of Can Yu. The assistant asked what happened, and another Can Yu returned to them, accusing the real successor of using the Japanese ninjutsu technique and taking on her appearance in order to sneak into the temple and kill the teacher. Lin-Er showed her inner strength that she had taken from her teacher, which convinced others that she was real and that her teacher had managed to pass the water to Tangyi. Chu Liuxing took Sang Yu and they fled from the temple. The assistants ran after them. He ordered them to hold their breath and the couple jumped into the river. Can Yu wanted to swim out, but Chu Liuxing kissed her to keep her in the water. Sang Yu's assistant noticed bubbles in the water and directed the girls to the other side so that they would not be seen. Lin-Er's assistant was bandaging her wound. Lin-Er said that she would mourn the loss of her teacher for 7 days, and during this time the women would have to catch the killer. The temple attendant went in front of the townspeople and read the text. The water of Tangyi will save the world. The thief Chu Liuxing and the Japanese ninja girl killed Yang Ji and wounded the head of the temple. The reward for them is 10,000. Chu Liuxing came to the house where he was raised. When Mr. Su, his foster father, and his daughter returned home, he asked them for help. He told the old man everything and asked for help. But despite the persuasion of Chu Liuxing and his sister, the old man refused to help them. Liuxing used his inner strength to try to cure Can Yu, but the girl claimed that she was very badly poisoned and he did not have the strength to cure her. Chu Liuxing did not give up. He could not let the girl die. Due to his lack of strength, Liuxing fainted. Her father and sister ran into the room, and Su told his daughter to look for an antidote. Lin-Er ran to the man she wanted to cure. He immediately asked if she had found the water. She assured him that she had. Finally, they could return to Japan. The man with whom Lin-Er was in love and for whom she did everything was the son of a general who wanted to take over the Shen Shun Temple 20 years ago but failed. Now his son gathered and brought the Ronin to fulfill his father's wish. When he was captured in the temple, the girl stood up for him and was forced to leave the service so that the man would not be killed. The man had poisoned himself, and Linner was convinced that it was Tanyu's water that could cure her beloved. At first, Linner went to the temple to see her teacher and asked for water, but the woman was not sneaky. She refused to give her water. Now, when Linner was sitting with her hands tied under the sword, she listened to her lover's gratitude for worrying so much about him and doing everything to save him. And she did it. She got what he came for. Now he can conquer these lands. The man ordered the warrior to take Tanyu's water from Linner. The girl confessed that the water was sealed in her, it was mixed with her inner power, and if he killed her, he would never get the water. Ronin suggested that the man let poisonous beetles into Linner's body to suck the water out of her. Linner was followed by her friend and assistant Kanyu. Shu Liuxing woke up. His father and sister were cooking. He asked where Kanyu was. The girl had woken up earlier and was observing nature. Kanyu thanked Liuxing for saving her. Liuxing offered to drink wine. Liuxing's foster sister was in love with the boy, and she was watching the couple with great jealousy. Her assistant came to see Kanyu. Mr. Su asked Liuxing not to interfere in the temple's affairs. Kanyu told Liuxing that they had found the fake Kanyu, and now she had to return the water to Tang Yi and avenge her teacher. Liuxing said he would help her. Japanese ninjas want to attack them. He can't do nothing. Sang Yu, Shu Liuxing and his sister and father came to the poisonous valley where the Japanese lived in disguise. San Yu, observing Shu Liuxing's attitude towards his sister, began to be jealous of the boy. She took him aside and asked him if he would save his sister if she was in danger. Liuxing replied that he would certainly save Zhen Xiu. Liuxing noticed the Ronins coming out of the cave. The father and daughter began to play to the public that they had been poisoned by fish they had bought from a Japanese man at the market. The Ronins heard the noise and rushed to find out what had happened. The entrance to the cave was free. Liuxing took Shan Yu by the hand, and the couple followed the female voice coming from inside the room was chained to Linner, and there were two girls whom Liuxing had seen earlier in the tavern. Luzhin noticed an insect on Linner's back that was taking her life force. The guy flew to Linner, and when he was showing off to the girls from the tavern and promising to save them later, he accidentally stepped on a stone that fell through, and the bell started ringing and everyone on the street heard that someone was in the cave. Liuxing and Kanyu rescued Linner and the girls from the tavern. At the entrance to the cave, they were joined by Mr. Su and his daughter, who distracted the Japanese. In the woods, women warriors led by Tsang Yu's assistant were waiting for them. Yu took away Linner's inner strength. Immediately after Linner was left without water by Tang Yi, the girl ran away. The Japanese killed Mr. Su. Before his death, he first heard Liuxing call them a teacher, and Su asked his adopted son to take care of Zhen Xiu. Shu Liuxing guessed that everything was planned by Tsang Yu on purpose. She called the girls for help and used him and his family as puppets. The boy was very disappointed and depressed by this treatment. He had hoped that she had feelings for him as he had for her, but after she used him to take away his power, Liuxing had a different view of Kanyu. The boy took his father and left the forest with his sister and the girls from the tavern. Tang Feng was giving a speech to the Japanese to attack Shen Shun. San Yu appeared before him. A battle took place between them. There was a traitor among the women who served in the temple. Oji, a teacher's assistant, was on the side of the Japanese. The girl plunged a poisoned sword into the back of Kanyu. The poison that got into Kanyu's body paralyzed his strength. Tang Feng wanted to take away Tang Yu's water, but Shu Liuxing prevented him from doing so. He stood up for Kanyu and Tang Feng injured him. Shu Liuxing began to confess his love to Sang Yu, but before he could say her name, he said that he loved her. When Tang Feng saw that the Japanese were defeated, he got on the boat with Linner. They started fighting and the boat they were on exploded. Kanyu took Shu Liuxing's body. She gave him her power and voluntarily broke the rules of the temple and became a prisoner for 20 years. Shu Liuxing regained consciousness. He was told that Kanyu had given him her power, and that was why she was in prison. Yuan, a friend of Kanyu's who became the leader instead of her, passed on Kanyu's words to Chu Liusen so that he would not wait for her, but become who he wanted to be.